You lied to me from the very first day.
So this happened last September, and I'm still processing everything. I'm a 39-year-old father, spent 12 years in military intelligence before starting my own cybersecurity company. My wife Sarah is a marketing VP, and we have a 7-year-old daughter named Sophie, who's basically our whole world. Everything started on what seemed like a normal Tuesday. Sarah had left Sunday for a week-long conference in San Francisco, her first major trip since her promotion. She was nervous about leaving Sophie, but I assured her we'd be fine. I rearranged my schedule, coordinated with my business partner Marcus to handle the workload, and planned father-daughter activities every evening. That Tuesday morning, Sophie asked if we could get ice cream after school. Standard dad response about finishing math homework first. Everything felt perfectly normal. The morning passed with security assessments and system audits. Around 11, Marcus showed me one of our accounts getting probed. We spent 2 hours tracking and neutralizing a coordinated overseas attack. Marcus and I served together in the Middle East. He saved my life during an ambush, and I returned the favor when we transitioned to civilian life. I left the office at 2:30 to be early for school pickup. I was sitting in the parking lot at 2:40 responding to emails when my phone rang. Sophie's teacher, Eleanor Patterson. Teachers don't call during school hours unless something's wrong. She asked if I had a moment, tension clear in her voice. I asked if Sophie was okay. She said Sophie was fine, but needed to discuss something concerning about the woman who'd been picking up my daughter. My blood went cold. What woman? I always pick up Sophie. Her mother's in California. Long pause. She said I needed to come inside immediately. I was through that door in seconds. Principal Derek Foster was waiting. Eleanor slid sign-out sheets across the table from the past week. Every day since Monday, someone had been signing Sophie out at 2 p.m. and bringing her back at 2:45. The signature, my wife's. Impossible. Sarah's been in San Francisco since Sunday. They explained the woman had proper identification, knew Sophie's birthday, classroom number, teacher's name. Sophie went willingly each time. I demanded security footage. Each day at 1:55, a woman entered wearing different outfits. She moved with confidence, signed sheets without hesitation, walked out holding Sophie's hand. She kept her face angled from cameras, but not obviously. She knew where cameras were positioned. Similar height and build to Sarah. Wore hats and sunglasses each time. This was planned. They brought Sophie to me. I asked about the lady who'd been picking her up. Sophie said we'd told her it was okay, that it was a surprise. I asked what the lady looked like. Sophie said she looked like Mommy, had Mommy's hair and smile, smelled like Mommy's perfume. Then she said the lady told her she was Aunt Rachel. Rachel Hayes, Sarah's older sister. The one we hadn't spoken to in 6 years. The one in and out of psychiatric facilities. The one who threatened Sarah at our wedding. The one we'd gotten a restraining order against, which expired 2 years ago and we stupidly let lapse. That night, I compiled everything on Rachel Hayes. She's 42, 3 years older than Sarah. Their mom died when they were teenagers. Dad remarried quickly to someone who didn't want stepkids. Sarah excelled academically. Rachel spiraled into pills, crime, toxic relationships, growing resentment toward Sarah's success. When Sarah and I got engaged, Rachel showed up drunk to our party screaming about how Sarah stole everything, through a glass that nearly hit Sarah's head. We got the restraining order. Disturbing letters continued for years, then stopped 3 years ago. We thought she'd moved on. I called Sarah from the parking lot. When I told her, silence. Then she said that wasn't possible. Rachel didn't even know where we lived. I explained Rachel had been taking Sophie for 45 minutes every afternoon. Sarah wanted to fly home immediately. I said, no, that's exactly what Rachel wants. Stay there, finish your conference. I've got this handled. I reviewed what I knew about Rachel. I'd compiled a file years ago. Their childhood was normal until their mother died of cancer, when Rachel was 15 and Sarah 12. Their father remarried too quickly to Patricia Lockwood, who had little interest in stepdaughters. Sarah threw herself into academics, earning a full scholarship to Northwestern. Rachel went the opposite direction. When Sarah started succeeding, Rachel's resentment crystallized. The breaking point came at our engagement party. Rachel showed up drunk, screaming, through a glass. I physically removed her. She screamed threats about making sure Sarah lost everything. Marcus came over to review footage. She knows exactly where cameras are, he noted. 2 arrests for stalking, 1 for breaking and entering. I called Detective Victor Shaw, who I knew from a previous case. His hands were tied. Rachel hadn't technically committed a crime. If we charged her with something minor, she'd be out in hours and disappear. I needed to know her endgame. Next morning, I drove Sophie directly to her classroom, had a pointed conversation with Principal Foster about new security protocols. No one picks up Sophie except me or Sarah with valid photo ID verified. Then I began hunting. Rachel's last known address was Milwaukee, 3 hours away. Called the landlord claiming to be a potential employer. Rachel moved out 4 months ago, no forwarding address, right when she started planning this. Through military contacts, I accessed databases. She'd bought a used Honda 2 months ago registered to a P.O. box. Used a credit card at a gas station 15 miles from here 3 weeks ago. She was living nearby, watching us. By evening, I found something. Rachel made regular ATM withdrawals every 3 days at 6:45 p.m. Same location, Walgreens on Miller Street. Next withdrawal was tonight. I asked Marcus to stay with Sophie while I went hunting. At 6:30, I was parked across from the Walgreens. At 6:43, a Honda pulled in. Rachel stepped out, thinner, hair shorter and darker, but same nervous movements. She made her withdrawal, returned to her car. I followed at a distance to a cheap motel, the Riverside Inn. She parked at room 117. Then I saw something that made my blood freeze. A child appeared in the window, maybe 8 or 9 years old. Rachel wasn't alone. Next morning, I returned with a telephoto lens. The child appeared around 8:30 eating cereal. Rachel moved around getting dressed, checking her phone, pacing. At 9:15, Rachel left alone. I approached room 117, knocked, said I was maintenance checking the AC. The child opened the door on the chain. Smart girl said her mom wasn't here. I convinced her to watch me work from the doorway. While examining the AC, I scanned the room. 2 beds, fast food wrappers, and on the dresser, photos. Dozens of photos of Sophie, at school, at the park, with me. Some recent, others older. I commented casually about the pictures. The child said her mom likes that little girl, says she's going to be her sister soon. Mom says they're going to be a family. My heart stopped. I asked her name. She said she wasn't supposed to tell strangers. Smart, I said. Your mom taught you that. She nodded proudly. I left, mind racing. Rachel had a daughter she'd kept secret, and she believed Sophie was becoming part of her family. This wasn't harassment. This was delusional. Rachel constructed a fantasy where she got to play happy family with Sophie as her daughter. I called Detective Shaw, explained everything. He'd send a patrol, but warned I couldn't do surveillance. I spent the day researching. Found medical records showing Rachel had a daughter 11 years ago, father unknown. Child's name was Maya Hayes. Rachel lost custody 3 times due to neglect, but kept getting her back. Last custody hearing 2 years ago where she convinced a judge she was stable. Shaw called back. Welfare check showed the girl was fine, no signs of misuse. Kid clammed up about her mother, been coached. My phone buzzed, unknown number. She's beautiful. You've done such a good job raising her, but she needs a mother's love, real love, not Sarah's fake selfish love. I can give her what she needs. I texted back we needed to talk. Response came immediately. Finally, meet me tomorrow, 2 p.m., Riverside Park. Come alone, no police, or you'll never see Sophie again. Tomorrow was Friday. Sophie at school until 3. I called the school alerting them. Called Marcus to watch Sophie's school tomorrow. He said I was walking into a trap. I said, of course, but it's the only way to end this. Friday morning, I drove Sophie to school. Marcus already positioned in the parking lot. I told Sophie if anyone except me or Marcus tries to pick you up, scream and run to your teacher. I spoke with Principal Foster again. Hired 2 off-duty cops as security guards. At 1:30, I arrived at Riverside Park an hour early, scouting the location. Park was sprawling with playground, trails, small pond. I identified sightlines, exit routes, ambush points, positioned myself with clear views, phone recording in my jacket, Shaw on speed dial. At 1:55, Rachel appeared, walking slowly, scanning. When she spotted me, her face transformed into a hopeful, yet unhinged smile. She thanked me for meeting. I cut off pleasantries, asking why she was doing this. She sat too close. I shifted away. She said she was fixing things, making things right. Sarah has everything, but doesn't appreciate it, doesn't deserve it. I asked if she thought she deserved it. She said she knew she did. She had a daughter too. Knew real motherhood, not Sarah's version where she dumped Sophie with nannies. I said Sarah's at a conference. That's having a job. Rachel's mask slipped, showing anger. She said it's being selfish. Sarah always put herself first. Was the smart one, pretty one. Everyone loved. Rachel was just background noise. I said, so this is about resentment. Rachel leaned forward, saying it's about fairness, asking if I knew what it's like watching your sister have everything while you have nothing. I asked about Sophie. Rachel said Sophie's perfect, kind, sweet. Laughed at her jokes. They connected. I said you manipulated a 7-year-old child. She insisted she showed real love. I said if you truly love Sophie, you'd stay away. Recognize you're terrifying her and her parents. Rachel said I didn't get it. I was on Sarah's side like everyone. I said I'm on my daughter's side and you're scaring her. Rachel stood saying she would never hurt her. Just wanted to be part of her life. I stood firmly and said, yes, it's wrong. You have restraining order history, been institutionalized, impersonated my wife. Everything's wrong. Rachel's voice broke, saying she knew I wouldn't understand. I said, I understand you're in pain, but Sophie is not the solution. You need professional help. She said she didn't need help, needed her family. I said, Sophie's not your family. She's mine and Sarah's. Leave us alone. She asked her what. I said, if you come near Sophie again, I will charge you with everything. Harassment, stalking, attempted kidnapping. I will use every resource to make sure you never get near her. Rachel's voice took on a chilling edge, saying, I can't protect her from everything. Accidents happen. Children disappear. I moved closer, voice dropping to deadly calm, saying, if anything happens to my daughter, I will hold you responsible, and I promise Rachel I am very good at making problems disappear. Rachel's eyes widened, recognizing danger. She wasn't just facing a concerned father, but a man with training, skills, resources. She whispered, asking if I was threatening her. I said I'm explaining consequences. Stay away, get help, and we'll never see each other again. Keep pushing, and you'll discover what I'm capable of. Rachel backed away, bravado crumbling, saying, I think I'm so tough, but she knows things about Sarah, things that could destroy her perfect life. I kept my expression neutral, saying, goodbye, Rachel. I called Marcus, all quiet at school. I told him she's unstable, escalating, made a vague threat, but she also claims Sarah has secrets. Marcus asked if I thought she was bluffing. I said I didn't know, but was going to find out. I reviewed the recording, sent it to Shaw with a formal complaint. Then I called Sarah. She was about to present. I told her Rachel made threats. Sarah gasped. Then I said, Rachel also claimed you have secrets, that she knows things that could destroy your life. The pause was too long. Sarah stammered, saying it's nothing. Rachel's been saying stuff like that for years. It's all in her head. I asked if she was sure. Sarah promised there was nothing. Rachel creates drama, wants to make me doubt her. I wanted to believe her, but my instincts were prickling. Sarah's voice had changed, become defensive. I said, okay, finish your presentation. She said she was flying home tonight. After hanging up, I began digging into Sarah's past, something I'd never done. We'd shared our histories, or so I thought. What I found made my blood cold. Sarah told me she graduated from Northwestern with a marketing degree. But accessing the alumni database, Sarah Campbell attended Northwestern but left junior year. No degree. Student newspaper archives mentioned a scandal involving a professor and students. One name appeared, Sarah Campbell, who filed a complaint before withdrawing. I found the professor's name, Dr. Calvin Farley. He'd been quietly dismissed, resurfaced at a smaller college, then disappeared from academia. Hints of settlements, NDAs, suppressed lawsuits. Sarah never mentioned this. After Northwestern, Sarah moved to Los Angeles for 2 years. She told me she worked for a startup, but that startup had no record of her employment. What had she been doing? I called a private investigator in L.A., Marcus Green. I needed everything on Sarah Campbell, who lived in L.A. from 2010 to 2012. While Marcus worked, I researched Farley, found him in Phoenix running a marketing firm. I called from a burner phone, said I was calling about former student Sarah Campbell. Long silence. He said he didn't discuss former students. I said not even when they destroyed your career. He realized I was Sarah's husband. Said I should ask her what happened, why she lied. He said they had a relationship. Consensual, she was 20, he was 39, inappropriate, but not illegal. When it ended badly, she burned his life down, filed a complaint claiming coercion. University paid her off and threw him out. He said she's very good at playing victim. She took a settlement that could have bought a house and disappeared to L.A. I asked what she did there. He said he never heard from her again. Marcus Green called back. Sarah Campbell moved to L.A. in 2010, but not for a startup. She worked under a different name, Sarah Hayes, at a high-end escort service called Platinum Connections. I stared, unable to process. An escort service. Marcus explained it was technically legal, companionship services, but everyone knew what it really was. She worked there about 18 months using Rachel's last name, left L.A. suddenly in 2012, moved to Chicago, reinvented herself, got her degree from DePaul, started her real marketing career. I asked why none of this came up. He explained she'd been careful, different name, different social security number briefly. Basically, created a new identity. Only someone digging specifically would find the connections. Someone like Rachel. Sarah arrived at 11:47, looking exhausted, eyes wary. We stood in awkward silence. I said we needed to talk about what Rachel said. Sarah asked about what. I said I know about Northwestern, Calvin Farley, Los Angeles, and Platinum connections. Sarah's face went white, grabbing the couch for support. She asked how it mattered. I said she lied our entire relationship. Sarah sank onto the couch crying. She told me Farley had been her professor. What began consensually turned controlling and threatening. He warned he would flunk her if she broke it off. When she reported him, the university gave her a choice: a long public complaint process or a quiet settlement. She accepted the settlement. She was 20 and scared. She moved to LA planning to start over, but was depressed, angry, lost. She made bad choices, worked for Platinum Connections 18 months. It was supposed to be temporary, but became easier than figuring out what she really wanted. She used Rachel's last name because she was ashamed. When she finally left, she went back to school, got her degree, built a real career, became the person she wanted to be. I asked how I tell the man I love that I used to be an escort, that I lied about my education. I said by trusting me, by believing I loved you enough to handle the truth. Instead, you lied, built our relationship on lies. She said they weren't lies, they were omissions. I said that's the same thing. She said she was protecting us. If that past came out, it could ruin everything she built. I said, and now Rachel has that information. She's using it against us. Sarah's face crumpled, asking how Rachel knows. I said, you tell me. Sarah's eyes widened, saying, unless Patricia, my stepmother, she knew about Northwestern, the settlement. I told her Patricia tried to pick up Sophie from school today, claiming to be her aunt. Security stopped her. Sarah looked sick, saying this is all her fault. Rachel's using her past to get to Sophie. I said we have to tell police everything, all of it. No more secrets. Sarah said if we do that, it becomes public record, her company, her career. I said, I don't care about your career. Our daughter is in danger because you couldn't be honest. Sarah stood angry, saying I knew she had a complicated past, knew her relationship with Rachel was toxic, but I never pushed, never asked questions. Maybe I didn't want to know either. The words hit home. I had taken Sarah's history at face value, never digging deeper because I loved and trusted her. I said she was right. I should have asked, but she should have told me. We stood in silence, heavy with hurt and betrayal and fear. Sarah asked where we go from here. I said I don't know, but first we protect Sophie. Everything else is secondary. Agreed. My phone buzzed. Text from Rachel. TikTok. Truth comes out tomorrow. Hope you're ready for everyone to know who Sarah really is. I showed Sarah. She whispered Rachel's going to expose her, destroy everything. I said let her try, but we do this my way now. No more secrets, no more defense. We take the fight to Rachel. Sarah asked how. I said by giving her exactly what she wants and then taking it all away. Saturday morning, I called Marcus. I need your help with something possibly illegal. He said he was in, asking the plan. I said Rachel wants to expose Sarah's past, thinks that's her leverage. We're going to let her think she's winning, then bury her. I spent the morning coordinating, gathering information, calling Shaw to lay out everything. Shaw warned if Sarah was involved in escort work, it could complicate things. I said statute of limitations passed. She wasn't charged with crimes. This is purely Rachel using personal information as blackmail, which is itself illegal. I sent Rachel a text from a burner phone. You win. Let's discuss terms. I'll pay you to stay away and keep Sarah's secrets. Name your price. Response came within minutes. $500,000 cash, and I get to see Sophie one more time to say goodbye. I said no to Sophie. $250,000 and you disappear permanently. She countered $400,000. I agreed to meet tomorrow 3 p.m., Warehouse District on Polk Street, come alone. Rachel was following the script perfectly. That afternoon, while Sarah took Sophie to a movie, Marcus and I prepared. We drove to the Warehouse District, identifying the location. Abandoned industrial building, isolated, perfect for ambush. Marcus said she's planning to rob you, maybe worse. I said I know. That's why you'll be positioned on the roof with a camera and rifle. If things go bad, you call the cavalry. Sunday afternoon, Marcus positioned himself on adjacent building's roof. I entered the warehouse alone, carrying a duffel bag with cut paper and a few real bills on top. The warehouse was dark, dusty. Rachel's voice came from shadows. She stepped into view but wasn't alone. Patricia Lockwood stood beside her, and behind them, 3 men, muscle hired for the occasion. I said, come alone. Rachel laughed, asking, "Where's the money?" I set the bag down. One of the men checked it, saw cash on top, nodded. "Before we complete this," Rachel said, "I want you to understand something. Sarah destroyed my life. She got everything. I got nothing. This isn't just about money. It's about justice." I said, "Justice is what you call terrorizing a 7-year-old. Rachel said she never hurt Sophie, wanted to give her what Sarah couldn't. Patricia spoke, saying Sarah always was a liar. I assessed the situation. 5 against 1, but Marcus had high ground and surprise. The hired muscle looked like amateurs. Rachel and Patricia were the real variables. I asked what happens now. Rachel said she wasn't quite satisfied with just money. Tomorrow morning, she's sending detailed emails to Sarah's employer, colleagues, every media outlet. It includes Northwestern settlement, her time in LA, photos from Platinum Connections. Even with the money, Sarah's perfect life burns down. I'd expected this. Rachel wasn't rational enough to take money and run. She wanted destruction. I said, "I think you're a sad, bitter woman who's wasted her life blaming everyone else for failures. Sarah didn't ruin you. You ruined yourself." Rachel's face contorted with rage, screaming, "Get him." The 3 men moved forward. I didn't wait. I grabbed the duffel, swinging it hard into first man's face, drove an elbow into second man's throat. Third man rushed, but I sidestepped, using his momentum to send him crashing into metal barrels. 12 years of training meant I could handle 3 amateurs easily. Within 30 seconds, all 3 were on the ground groaning. Rachel pulled out a small Colt, shaking in her hand. She screamed, "Don't move." I raised my hand slowly, saying, "Rachel, think about this. If you use that on me, you'll go to prison." She said, "Better than going back to nothing." A red laser dot appeared on Rachel's chest, Marcus from his roof position. I said calmly, "You're surrounded, Rachel. My partner has a rifle trained on you. Police are on their way. Put down the tool." Rachel's eyes darted wildly, saying I was lying. The laser moved to her forehead. I said, "Am I?" Patricia started backing away, saying this wasn't supposed to happen. Rachel swung the tool toward Patricia, saying she promised she'd help. They'd make Sarah pay. Patricia said she wanted money, not a homicide charge, and ran for the exit. Rachel's tool wavered between me and fleeing Patricia. I saw my opening, closed the distance in 3 steps, grabbed Rachel's wrist, twisted sharply. The tool clattered to the floor. I kicked it away, forced Rachel to her knees, hand gripping the pressure point on her shoulder. "I said it's over!" Rachel screamed, raw sound of rage and despair, saying I didn't understand. Sarah took everything. I said Sarah didn't take anything. Life isn't zero-sum. She made different choices. Move forward instead of staying trapped in the past. Sirens wailed, getting closer. I said, "Your daughter Maya, she's going to grow up without you if you don't get help now." Rachel's struggles weakened. She said she just wanted to matter. I said, "Then matter to your own daughter. Be the mother she needs. Stop trying to steal someone else's life." Police burst through doors. Detective Shaw led the team, tools drawn. He asked if I was okay. I said, "Fine." Rachel Hayes is under arrest for attempted robbery, assault with deadly tool, terroristic threatening. These 3 helped her, and Patricia Lockwood fled north on foot about 3 minutes ago. Officers secured Rachel reading her rights. She didn't resist. Fight finally gone. Shaw said they got everything on recording. Marcus sent audio and video feed real time. The tool was loaded, all 6 chambers. She could have ended me. As they led Rachel away, she looked back, saying, "Tell Sarah she's sorry for all of it." I didn't respond. Some apologies come too late. Aftermath unfolded like controlled demolition. Shaw kept me updated. Rachel charged with attempted armed robbery, assault, stalking, harassment. The hired muscle rolled on her immediately. Patricia arrested trying to board a bus to Minnesota, charged as accessory. Rachel's lawyer pushed for psychiatric evaluation, claiming she wasn't fit for trial. I said she's manipulative, not insane. She planned all this meticulously. Shaw agreed, but prosecution thought a deal might be better. Rachel pleads guilty to reduce charges, does serious time, gets mandatory psychiatric treatment. 8 to 12 years, depending on judge. Loses custody of Maya permanently. I asked what happens to Maya. Social services was working on placement. No other family willing to take her. I told Sarah they'd be alone in the system. Sarah was quiet, then said Maya's her niece, her blood. She's 9 years old and going to be alone because of Rachel's actions. That's not her fault. Despite everything, Sarah's first instinct was compassion. I said we'd need to be evaluated, go through vetting, and it would mean bringing Rachel's daughter into Sophie's life. Sarah said Sophie asked about her, about the girl in some pictures, thinks she's her cousin. She is her cousin. We looked at each other, years of partnership and recent strain hanging between us. I said if we do this, we do it together. No more secrets, no more lies. Full transparency. Sarah agreed, saying she wanted that too, knew she hurt me, knew she should have told me everything from the beginning. She was scared I'd see her differently. I said she didn't lose me, but almost lost my trust. She said she'd spend as long as it takes rebuilding it. I took her hand, saying we start with complete honesty about Maya, about everything going forward. Complete honesty, she agreed. They sat down, and for the first time, Sarah told me everything, every detail of her relationship with Farley, how it started as flattery and evolved into control, how the settlement felt like both vindication and shame, how she went to LA planning to find herself, and instead lost herself further. She said she's not proud of that time, but not ashamed anymore either. She survived, got out, built something real. I listened without judgment, asking questions to understand rather than accuse. I told her about my own past, things I'd never fully shared, the ends in combat, moral compromises, parts of myself I'd had to shut down to survive war. I said we're both survivors. We've both done things we wish we could change, but we survived and built this. That's what matters. We spent the next week working with social services on Maya's placement. Evaluation process was intensive. Home studies, background checks, psychological assessments. My military record helped. So did Sarah's clean criminal history and career success. Maya was wary when we first met her at social services. She'd been told her mother was in jail. She'd be living somewhere new. She asked if we were going to send her away like everyone else. Sarah knelt down, saying, "No, sweetheart. If you come live with us, it's permanent. You're family." Maya said her mom said Sarah hated her, took everything from her. Sarah said gently, "Your mom was sick, believed things that weren't true, but none of that is your fault. You deserve a stable home and people who love you." Maya asked, "What about Sophie? Does she want a sister?" Sophie, who'd been coloring quietly, looked up, saying she's always wanted a sister, asking if Maya likes unicorns. Maya smiled for the first time, saying, "Yeah, unicorns are cool." Transition took months. Maya had trauma to work through, attachment issues from years of instability, therapy sessions, difficult conversations, moments when Maya lashed out or withdrew. But slowly, carefully, she began trusting this home was different. These people weren't going to abandon her. Sophie was patient, shared her room, toys, parents' attention. She seemed to understand Maya needed the stability she'd always taken for granted. By Thanksgiving, Maya had settled into the family. She called us Aunt Sarah and Uncle James, not ready for Mom and Dad, but accepting our place in her life. She and Sophie fought like real sisters and protected each other like real sisters too. Rachel wrote letters from prison, long, rambling letters starting as apologies, often devolving into accusations. We read them together, filed them away, responded with photos of the girls, brief updates, offers of therapy resources if Rachel was willing to accept help. 3 months later, I received a call from Marcus to turn on Channel 7 News. Patricia Lockwood's trial. She'd refused a plea deal, went to trial, convicted of conspiracy to commit robbery and child endangerment. Judge sentenced her to 5 years. Interesting part came in victim impact statements. Sarah testified publicly about her stepmother's years of neglect and emotional misuse, how Patricia manipulated Rachel's mental illness to serve her own grudges. Then Sarah revealed her own past, all of it. The relationship with Professor Farley, the settlement, her time in Los Angeles. She laid it all out, not as confession, but as context. Story of a young woman who'd been hurt, made survival choices, ultimately rebuilt herself into someone strong. She said on the stand she's not ashamed of who she was because that woman fought her way to becoming who she is now, and she's proud of who she is now. News coverage was surprisingly sympathetic. The anchor noted Sarah Anderson showed remarkable courage, discussing her past. Her story highlighted failures of universities to protect young women from predatory professors. Sarah called from work, asking if I saw. I said I saw, asking if she was okay. She said she was better than okay. She was free. The truth's out. Rachel can't use it anymore. Patricia can't use it, and she doesn't have to carry it as secret anymore. I said I was proud of her. She thanked me for standing by her, for protecting us, for being me. I said that's what family does. 6 years later, I stood in our backyard watching Sophie, now 13, teach Maya, now 15, to drive in the empty lot beyond our fence. Slightly illegal, but worth it for family bonding. Sarah emerged with lemonade, saying they were going to wreck something. I said probably, but they'll learn. Rachel had been paroled the year before after serving 8 years. She'd completed psychiatric treatment, maintained good behavior, genuinely seemed to have found peace. She lived in a supervised apartment in a different state, worked as a grocery clerk, attended weekly therapy. Maya chose to have supervised video calls once a month. Conversations were stilted, careful, but civil. Rachel never asked for more than Maya was willing to give. Maya had said after one recent call that Beverly, she means Rachel, seems different, sad, but calm. Sarah had said that made perfect sense. I'd sent Rachel one letter after her release. Brief. I said I won't pretend to forgive everything. You terrorized my family, but I recognize you're working to change. Keep doing that for your sake and Maya's. Maya is thriving, happy, healthy, loved. She asks about you sometimes. We'll support whatever relationship she chooses as long as it's healthy for her. You have a second chance most people don't get. Don't waste it. Rachel responded with a short note. Thank you for taking care of my daughter. Tell her I love her. Watching the girls laughing together in fading sunlight, I reflected on how far we'd all come. Sophie was becoming strong and confident. Maya had shed the fearfulness marking her early months with us, discovering her own strength. Sarah had transformed her painful past into a platform for helping others, and I'd learned the real battles aren't fought in warehouses or war zones. They're fought in quiet moments, choosing honesty over comfort, choosing family over pride, choosing to build rather than destroy. Sarah asked what I was thinking. I said how lucky I am. She said lucky after everything we went through. I said especially after everything. We could have let Rachel's actions break us. Instead, we chose to let them make us stronger. Sarah said Sophie asked yesterday if she could write to Rachel, wants to thank her for bringing Maya into their lives. She said if none of that bad stuff happened, she wouldn't have a sister. I smiled, saying that's very Sophie, finding gratitude in trauma. Sarah said she's your daughter. I said our daughter, both of them. As the sun set, painting the sky orange and gold, I understood victory wasn't always dramatic. Sometimes it was simply this, a family whole and happy built on ruins of what could have destroyed them. Rachel had tried to take everything. Instead, she'd inadvertently given us Maya. Sarah's secrets threatened to tear us apart. Instead, truth brought us closer. We'd faced darkness and chosen light. We'd been tested and proven strong. We'd survived. And that was the only victory that truly mattered.